Hola estudiantes, soy Profesor Puran, and in this video we are going to discuss the dialogue from the CSEC Spanish 2026 January paper. Firstly, let's look at the dialogue in front of us. So it says, you and your friend Alethea are planning to go to a concert. Write the dialogue between both of you giving your responses. Now the dialogue is usually written between 80 to 100 words. You are allowed to go a little bit under 80 and a little bit above 100. So it's between 70 to 110. So you don't write anything less than 70 and anything more than 110. So let's read the cues. It says, feelings about attending the concert, preparations for the concert including transportation, how they should dress for the concert, duration of the concert, and plans afterwards, and discussion of tickets and cost. Now, my advice is that before you start any part of the dialogue, it's very important that you read through and get an understanding of the information being presented. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So Alicia says, yo también me siento igual. Hace rato que quería ver a Marshall en concierto. Mis padres ya me dijeron permiso. ¿Qué dijo tu padre cuando pediste permiso? So it says, I also feel this way. It's been a while since I wanted to go or wanted to see Marshall in concert. My parents already give me permission. What did your father say when you asked permission? Entonces, tienes que cumplir esa promesa, amiga. Pues lo primero que tenemos que hacer es conseguir entradas para el concierto y después el transporte. ¿Preguntaste a tu hermano si nos puede llevar? ¿Qué dijo? So you have to meet that promise, so you have to keep that promise, my friend. And notice here that Alicia says amiga. So even if you are a boy, you now know that the friend is a girl. So this is important. You have to write from a girl point of view. And this is why I was saying that before you start writing anything, you need to know the direction that your dialogue takes you, as well as you need to know other contextual information. I'll tell you one more thing. Notice that in the cues here, it did not talk about, or they did not give any information about any promesa, any promise, right? But then in this part here, it says you have to keep that promise. So even though the cues will guide you, there are going to be other things within the dialogue that you need to pay attention to. You need to refer to these things in order for it to make sense. Also, what you should pay attention to is that they have question marks. That means that you have to ask a question. Sometimes you're lucky, they may not bring questions or may not bring responses that require you to ask questions. But in this one, there were quite a few, if not all, the majority ended with some sort of question. So you have to be prepared for that as well. So it says, creo que tenemos que ir al centro comercial para comprar las entradas. Y si tu hermano no puede llevarnos al concierto, ¿qué hacemos? I think we have to go to the mall to buy the tickets. And if your brother cannot take us to the concert, then you know what we will do. Buena idea. Ese autobús es bastante grande y cómodo. Pero, ¿cómo nos vestimos para un concierto de Marshall? ¿Qué ropa piensas llevar? Good idea. That bus is quite big and comfortable. But how are we going to dress to go to Marshall's concert? What clothing are you thinking about wearing? Pensar plus infinitive means like you intend to do something as well, right? So what do you plan to wear? Muy informal entonces, very informal. Tengo la ropa perfecta para la ocasión. I have the perfect clothes for the occasion. ¿A qué hora comienza el concierto y cuánto tiempo dura? What time does the concert begin and how long is it? Bueno, si termina tan temprano, podemos ir al Club Morocco que está cerca. Well, if it finishes early, we can go to the club or Club Morocco that is close by or that is close. Es segurísimo, amiga. So it's very safe, my friend. Pablo y Juan están equivocados porque yo ya fui a ese club sin problema. Pero tú decides, ¿qué prefieres hacer después del concierto? So it's very safe, my friend. Pablo and Juan are wrong because I already went to that club without any problem. But you decide, what do you prefer to do after the concert? Now notice that Alicia is mentioning Pablo and Juan here, and again, no reference to friends here. So obviously, you have to make sure your responses refer to something that Pablo and Juan said. Muy bien, vamos a donde tú quieras. So, very good, we'll go at where you want. Y en cuanto a las entradas, creo que cuestan $200 y podemos ir mañana al centro comercial para comprarlas. So, in terms of the tickets, I think they cost $200 and we can go tomorrow at the mall to buy them. Bueno, puedes esperarme cerca del banco a las 10. Hasta mañana, pues. So, well, you can wait for me around the bank at 10 o'clock. Until tomorrow, right? Bye. So, we have a good idea of where the dialogue is taking us. And like I say many times, you have to know your vocabulary. If you do not know 95% or 90% at least of the vocabulary, then you will not understand one, the complete dialogue, and two, you will miss out details, simple details. Apart from the cues, like I said, there are other things you have to refer to, and if you don't know the vocabulary, then you are going to be completely lost. So, the first or the next thing rather you want to do is kind of get an idea of where your cues fall. So, feelings about attending the concert would be definitely here. So, sometimes dialogue begin with the cues, sometimes you have to say a couple of things before the cues actually start. But definitely here would be the feelings. The second one, the preparation for the concert, including transportation. That is right over here when they talk about if your brother is going to carry us, and that's more or less here. Okay? The third one is how they should dress for the concert. So you're definitely seeing when they talk about the clothing. That's your third cue right over here. And your fourth cue is right here because it talks about the duration and the time of the concert. Right? It's the duration of the concert and the plans afterwards. The plans definitely started right here. And the last one would have been discussion of tickets and cost. So when the plans continue here, discussion of tickets starts right here because they ask about the cost. Okay, and obviously we know the mall is where you have to go. So tickets and cost. So let's try attempting this. Let's see what we can come up with. Now I'm keeping this very simple so that you understand use basic structures. So obviously it starts off with some sort of exclamation and it's feelings. So I would say something like, estoy súper emocionada. Remember, it's a girl speaking, right? Por el concierto de Marshall. I want to add in here, no puedo esperar. And then the question now obviously has to be about how you are feeling or as well as not just or what your parents say, perhaps because it says my parents already give me permission. So I come up with something like, I will come up with something like, tus padres te dejaron ir, right? Your parents letting you go, or are they letting you go, right? Um, so, or if you want to say something like tus padres te dijeron permiso, you can use back the same thing. Te dijeron permiso, did they give you permission to go? So Alicia responds by saying, I am feeling the same way in terms of excitement because she said that has been a while since she wanted to go to Marshall concert, right? And then she says, well, my parents already gave me permission. And then it says, what did your father say when you asked permission? So you want to start off with a little muletilla like, pues, me dijo, he said yes, que sí, pero tenía que prometer sacar buenas notas. You could add in mis exámenes, but you have to pay attention to your word count as well, right? And then your question, ¿qué vamos a hacer primero? Right? What are we going to do first? Or you could put ahora. Moving on. Right? So we have this here. Moving on to the second part now. So it says, entonces tienes que cumplir esa promesa, amiga. So that's why said that, I had to make a promise to my parents or my dad. The first thing, so now the reason why I ask what are we doing first is because it says, the first thing we have to do is to get the tickets, right? So did you ask your brother if he will take us and what did he say? So I would say something like, sí, pero me dijo que no puede, he cannot, porque, because tiene que trabajar, he has to work. And then a question, right? The question is, ¿dónde podemos comprar las entradas? So where can we buy the tickets? So Alicia is saying, well, I think we have to go to the mall to buy the tickets. And if your brother cannot take us, then what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So notice now that whatever I am saying, it flows. It goes, it corresponds to what was asked or what was said. And then, of course, what is coming next. The questions also have to make sense because the questions I'm creating these questions are rather corresponding to the information or the answers that Alicia is providing here for me. So she's asking now, what are we going to do? But notice that she's saying ese autobús, that bus. So we could say something like, pues, o bueno. Pienso o bueno, we could use bueno here as well, right? Let me use podemos. Podemos tomar el autobús, and I'm going to use the word público, right? And I'm saying, oí que I heard that es muy grande y cómodo. So she now is saying, good idea. That bus is quite big and comfortable. So now she's referring to this specific bus. And that is why I'm using the word autobús público. But, ¿cómo nos vestimos para un concierto de Marshall? So how can we dress? Right? How are we dressing for this concert? What clothes are you planning to wear? So this is the third cue now, right? Bueno. And I'll use back the same structure. Another skill you have to look, or you have to harness rather, is using back the same words and the structures from the dialogue. I mean, think about it. If you're having a dialogue with your friend and your friend asks you something about a particular event or a particular time or something about school, you will not be talking about something out of context. Hence the title Contextual Dialogue. So yes, you can use back some of the words here, use back some of the structures, and you will notice that I am keeping it very simple. Poder plus infinitive, tener que plus infinitive. Right, very simple. So I'm using back the structure. Pienso llevar em, mis vaqueros y una camiseta. I want to add something here like, ¿sabes? Algo simple. So I was just reading over the Alicia's comment because she says very informal, right? I mean, yes, the jeans and the t-shirt is informal. So I said, something simple. That's what I'm saying. Something simple. ¿Sabes? Algo simple. So then she says, well, I have the perfect clothing for the occasion and then what time it starts. So this is moving on to cue number 4. Claro. We can say empieza a las 6 is good. I think 6 o'clock is fine. Y dura, we can say it lasts 3 hours. O durará, it will last 3 horas. Now you have a question to ask. And she's saying, well, if it finishes early, right, we can go to the club. So that is when you have to say maybe y luego. And then, ¿qué haremos después? So what will we do afterwards? Maybe if you say something like, it's ending very early, what we're going to do next. That is fine as well. But I'm also looking at my word count because I don't want it to be over 110 words. If it crosses that, then you have to review and you'll have to remove certain things. So then there's a question. ¿Es seguro ese club? Is that club safe? And then here's where you're going to say, Pablo y Juan me dijeron que no. That's not right. Es, we could maybe say es, no es un lugar seguro. But because I'm already writing so much, I'm just going to hold up here with this. Pablo y Juan me dijeron que no. I'm clearing the screen, moving on. So then she says, it's very safe, my friend. Pablo and Juan are mistaken because I went recently and, without any problems. But you decide, what do you want to do? So I would say something like, es que, or you can just simply say prefiero. Prefiero ir a comer en un restaurante. and then a question again. Now, this question has to be cost because we're moving on to the last cue, which deals with cost. And she did mention the cost here. So you want to say, ¿y cuánto cuestan las entradas? So how much do the tickets cost? So then she gives the answer and she said we can go tomorrow. So you can also ask, ¿y cuándo vamos a comprarlas? And when are we going to buy them? If you have the space for extra words. So after this, you could just comment and say, no hay problema, because she said that we can go to the mall tomorrow. So no hay problema, podemos. So I'm just responding, podemos ir mañana. And then the question is, ¿dónde, where, dónde puedo esperarte y a qué hora? So where can I wait for you and at what time? And that is when she says, well, you can wait for me around the bank at 10 o'clock until tomorrow. So this is basically what the dialogue looks like. Let me just do a quick word count and I will tell you how many words I have. Okay, so a quick word count give me roughly 115 words. So I am over the limit. So what I will do is I will try removing certain things. So maybe we can remove from this section here. I could say prefiero ir a un restaurante. So that's two words right there. I could remove this and say claro. So that's another two. So that's four words, right? From the first page. So we just have about 10 words or 11 words again to remove. Remember, we allowed the maximum is 110, right? So I crossed it by about 8 words really, because I had about 118 actually, not 115. So I just need to remove 8 words and already remove 4. But let me show you what we can remove again. So estoy súper emocionada por ir, bueno, por el concierto de Marshall. Maybe we could remove this. That's 3 words right here. So I'm showing you how to do the editing as well. So in the exam, over you don't go over the limit. So that's another 3. That's a possibility. Pues, you don't want to remove the pues or the bueno, etc., because those things will help your essay. Sorry, help your dialogue. From this section here, we could remove words like muy. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's my 8 words right there. And this, we could also remove this. Sabes, algo simple. We could remove that if we need to. And that's really it. So there is room to edit. And I was able to remove 8 words. So that's 8, or more than 8 words actually, that will bring me down and within my word limit. Okay, so in the exam, this is what you do. Once you complete the dialogue, you look to see where you could make the adjustments and you remove accordingly. Okay, so I hope that this helps you. Just remember, read the entire dialogue. Look at what comes after, what comes before. Make sure your response is accurate. It doesn't only just correspond to the cues, but whatever they mention as well within the dialogue. You want to pay attention, very, very close attention to the words that they use so that you could also reuse those words or the structures so that your work is complete and appropriate. And Again, ensure that you use the little muletillas in between, pues claro. Use simple language, and like I did mention, double check for your word limit. And where there are questions, ensure that your questions are appropriate. They are actually questions that are appropriate to the responses that are provided. Okay, so until our next video, adios.